My name is Danny, or Dan to my friends. I like cycling and walking in the park. I love swings and slides too, and I can often be found in our local safari park and zoo. Man, do I love those lions. They're a little bit scary though. Well, obviously not for me, but I am kind of glad for the super strong fence and that they're over there and that I'm over here. Well, where I live, I work for this guy called Darius, and he's quite a good boss, really. He says I'm a good worker, he says I'm faithful, because I work really hard and because I try to make him look as good as possible, and I try and make the business do as well as possible. If the boss benefits, then we all benefit, right? But I always get the feeling that the people I work with, well, they're not quite as happy with me as my boss Darius is. You see, when the lunchtime bell goes, well, they're off like a shot. But they always seem to take a lot longer to come back again when they've finished their break. I like to help them out too, so I take my lunch break and then I spend some time praying for them and all the problems in their lives they talk to me about. Pray for them, for my colleagues, for Darius. I actually found a room that never ever gets used, so I go in there and, well, I close the door so I don't disturb anybody, and I open the window because it's a bit smelly in there. Well, one day I'm doing my normal lunchtime prayer thing, got me prayer on, and I hear laughter from under the window. It was my colleagues, and when I got to the window I saw them running away with a video camera tucked under their arm. Turns out they'd filmed me praying. Darius was quite upset. You see, he believed my friends, and he'd made a rule that nobody could use his name unless they said King Darius. Otherwise, the memo said, whatever a memo is, that he'd be fed to the lions. Well, I thought he was joking, but it turns out he owned the local safari park and the zoo and the aquarium too, where my colleagues suggested we go for a field trip on the company bus. And when we get to the lion enclosure, my colleagues stopped the bus and then they threw me out of the bus, right in the middle of the lions. They drove off with screeching tyres and never looked back. The lions looked at me and I looked back at the lions, and then they started to walk towards me and I realised I was on the wrong side of the fence. But it seemed to me that all the lions had big cheesy grins on their faces. And then I saw this bright light from behind me shining forwards. I thought it was a car with its lights on full, and I turned around and I saw that it was actually a man who was really, really bright and had angel wings. I was starting to wonder what sort of a safari park this really was. Meanwhile, Darius was getting a bit more upset by the minute. He was glad everybody was calling him King Darius, but he was also quite upset that I'd been actually fed to the lions. You see, I made the most money for the business because the people I spoke to really trusted me, so they bought more from me than anybody else. So all of my colleagues threw Darius a big party until he forgot about me. But the next morning, Darius woke up in bed really suddenly, with a sweat on his brow. What had he been thinking? He got in his car, dashed to the safari park, and was quickly waved through when they saw it was the boss coming. He got to the enclosure with the lions. He saw me with the lions lying around me with big cheesy grins on their faces. He jumped out of his car, he ran towards me, and then he saw the chap with the wings, and it was then that I think he properly noticed the lions. As he slowly started to creep backwards towards his car, he saw me happily chatting away with the lions and with the angel. Turns out that the lions like playing with balls of string, just like my little cat back home. Darius was quite relieved. Turns out when he said he wanted me fed to the lions, he didn't mean quite like this. All turned out well in the end though. Darius said that all of my colleagues who had tricked me into getting me fed to the lions were going to sleep with the fishes, and since he owned a large aquarium too, I figured he was going to send them to work there at night time instead. I never saw them again, but when I went to the aquarium one day, the shark saw me, winked at me and started smiling.